What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Doogee S96 Pro. This is one of the latest rugged smartphones from Doogee, and I'm really excited to show you everything that there is to know about it in this video. Now, I would like to thank Doogee for being kind enough to send this phone out to me to cover here on the channel. This is my first time working with them, and all opinions expressed in this video are completely my own. Now, this is a brand that I have known about for quite a while, but I've never really had the opportunity to review any of their phones, so I'm really excited to make this review. Now, to see the most up-to-date pricing, take a look at the link in the video description, as I'm sure prices for this phone will go down as time goes on. But before we get into all the details about the actual device itself, let's take a look and see what all we get in the box. So here is the box the phone does come in. You can see right there, S96 Pro. We'll open this up and take a look at all the various contents. One of the first items that comes included is actually a plastic film that you can put over the display. So it's kind of like a screen protector, but not quite as durable as a tempered glass screen protector would be. But nice that they did include this at least, so that you are able to give your display a little bit of extra protection. It looks like we also get an additional screen protector. We get a user manual, and we get some wet wipes for cleaning off dirt. Then getting further into the other items included, we have this tool, which is actually the SIM card removal tool, which is pretty interesting. Essentially, in the side of the phone, we have this slot right here for the SIM card and micro SD card. And you take this tool and you kind of pry it in there like that, and it pops out the tray. So the tray actually supports 2 SIM cards and 1 micro SD card, so pretty awesome there. We also have a lanyard, which is really nice because the phone itself does have a place to tie the lanyard into. We have a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer. We have some 3.5mm headphones with Doogee branding, and also we get a microphone. And we have the wall adapter. So this is a European USB wall adapter, so keep that in mind. Now, there might be certain variants of the phone that come with a specific US wall adapter, but I'm not really sure which ones because, again, Doogee did send this phone directly to me. So it is nice that they gave us all these various items included. Now, as far as these screen protectors go, of course, they are going to provide some additional protection compared to nothing, but I would have preferred to see a tempered glass screen protector instead. Now, here is the actual phone itself, and this is definitely a pretty interesting, rugged phone, because Doogee definitely prioritizes performance over anything else. And I'll explain more about that in a little bit. Now, with this device, we're getting a 6.22-inch display, so a pretty decently large display. It is LCD, and it is just 720p. So that is one disappointment with this phone, is that it's only 720p. It would have been nice to have a 1080p display, but you'll see when we talk about the processor a little bit later on in the video, that it seems like they kind of compromised on the display a little bit to give us a really powerful processor. So that's actually not really a bad thing. So the display is 720p, we're getting a PPI of 270, and we're getting a 19:9 aspect ratio. Now up top here, we do have a water drop notch, and in that notch is a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. Now internally, with this phone, we're getting 128 gigabytes of storage, and then we're also getting micro SD card expansion. So 128 gigs is definitely very generous. Now this phone does support wireless charging at 10 watts, which is nice to see. And we do also get a fingerprint sensor. So the fingerprint sensor is built into the right side of the phone. Let's give that a try. So very quick, one more time. Very cool. The phone also supports face unlock, so it's nice that we do have multiple methods to access the device. Now, the cameras on this phone are definitely very interesting, especially because we have one feature in particular that I've never seen before on a smartphone. Now, on the back of the device, we have a quad camera setup. So we have a 48 megapixel main camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, a 20 megapixel night vision camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. So yes, you heard that right. With this phone, we do get night vision, and it actually works surprisingly well. Now you'll see later on in the video, as I show you photo and video samples from the phone, how exactly that looks. But essentially, it's really not a gimmick. I mean, if you want a night vision camera, this phone does offer it. So if you're in a room with 0 lights and it's completely dark and you use the night vision camera, you will be able to see everything in that room. Or probably what it's really meant for, if you're outside, maybe you're camping, maybe you're going on a night hike, for example, you can take out the night vision camera and start recording content, and it's gonna look pretty interesting. And you'll definitely probably be the only person in your group with that capability. But here's how the camera app looks on the device. This is with the standard camera right now. Then from here, we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera to fit a lot more content into the frame. Then from here, we can switch over to night vision, which, it's light in here, so that won't work very well. But we can go to regular video mode. There's also macro mode, so we can get pretty close up here. Although I will say macro doesn't work quite as well with this phone as it does with other ones that I've used, but I feel like not too many people even use macro mode that often anyway, so not really a big deal. But then from here, we can go over to the More tab, and there's some other options as well. And then we can go over to the More tab and access a variety of other camera features. Now this phone does support portrait mode for both the front and rear cameras. So I'll flip around to the front. There's me right now with a nice blurred out background behind me. So portrait mode does work on this phone. And in general, we do get a lot of different camera capabilities with this device. And definitely for a rugged phone, that is going to come in handy, because whether you're buying this to use on a construction site or you're using this phone when you're out camping, there's going to be a bunch of different features here, such as the cameras that you likely will be using quite often. Now, one of my favorite things about this device is the RAM and processor. So we're getting 8 gigabytes of RAM in the MediaTek Helio G90 processor. So I did run a benchmark test with this phone using Geekbench 5, and these are the scores that I got. So I got a single core score of 504 and a multi-core score of 1594. So both are very impressive, and definitely, expect to get pretty decent performance with this device. The MediaTek Helio G90 processor is definitely one of the more powerful mid-range chipsets from MediaTek. So I'm really happy to see that included here with the Doogee S96 Pro. And then with this phone, we're getting a very large battery at 6,350 milliamp hours. And with that, we're getting 24-watt fast charging. So that's a really massive battery. Obviously, this phone is a very big phone as well. It's also quite heavy, so keep that in mind. But considering that we have such a large battery and the phone has a 720p display, really is going to make this phone very power efficient. So that's pretty awesome. Now the software on here is Android 10, which is a good thing. However, I wasn't really a big fan of Doogee's launcher that comes with the phone. Essentially, a launcher is the home screen and app drawer. And the biggest issue that I had with it is that I couldn't really find the app drawer. Like, there was no app drawer enabled by default, and I couldn't find any options in the settings to add one. So that's why I ended up installing Nova Launcher here on the phone, which you can get for free in the Google Play Store. But ideally, I would have preferred to go with the default launcher instead. But I'll switch over to that right now and show you what that looks like. So, by the way, you can access that by pulling down the shade, go to the settings, go to search, type in home, and you'll see right there default home app. So I added Nova Launcher, but this is their default home app. And this is what it looks like. So like I said, it doesn't look bad. It's just that there's no app drawer. So they just add all your various apps in the interface here, kind of similar to iOS prior to iOS 14. So there's no app drawer, and I definitely would want an app drawer. That's one of my favorite features of Android. So that's why I ended up installing Nova Launcher to get that app drawer back. So if you're someone that doesn't want to make modifications like that, even though adding a third-party launcher is very easy, then maybe you might want to go with a different device. And also, Doogee, if you're watching this, can you please give us the ability to add an app drawer with your default launcher? And if it's there for some reason and I can't find it, then please make it way easier to find, because I couldn't find it. And I spent like 15 minutes trying to find the setting to add in the app drawer. So I'm assuming that it doesn't exist. Now there's also some other cool features about this phone. So we get NFC with it, which means that you can use Google Pay. We also get a customizable button on the left side of the phone, which is pretty cool. And this phone is IP68 and IP69K rated. So it's gonna stand up really well to being thrown around, dropped, put underwater, all those various things. You know, this phone is designed to withstand them. But now that we've gone over the major specifications of the phone, let's take a closer look at the hardware. And like I mentioned earlier, this phone is a beast. It is a heavy device. It's certainly going to weigh down your pocket quite a bit, so be ready for that. But then again, with that, we're getting a really massive battery and we're getting all kinds of various hardware features that you typically wouldn't find with another phone. Another cool thing about this phone being a rugged device is that you're not going to need to buy a case to pair up with it. So typically, cases add a lot of bulk to smartphones, but this phone is already bulky from the get-go. So I suppose if you were to take a regular sized phone and you add a case to it, it probably would end up making the phone about the size of this one anyway, especially if you're going to get like a really strong, durable case. But taking a look at the front panel here, I already talked quite a bit about this, but you can see that we do have rounded corners. I'm not really a big fan of that, especially since there is so much bezel. I wish the corners were squared off, but up top here, again, we have that water drop notch and then a little bit of a thicker bottom bezel. Taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have that slot for the micro SD card and SIM cards. We have the multi-function customizable button. You can see waterproof right there, written for you. We also have the fingerprint sensor, the power button, volume down, volume up. Then up top here, we have nothing. And then on the bottom of the phone, we do have a little flap here that covers the ports. So we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and we have a USB-C port for charging and data transfer. So nice to have both of those. Then taking a look at the back side of the phone, we have the quad camera setup. We also have dual flash here as well, which is pretty interesting. And then we have the speaker and Doogee branding. And then we have an area for the lanyard to attach. So in general, I think it's a pretty nice looking phone. Good quality materials. It is made out of metal in some parts. So this is rubber right here and then metal here. So in general, just a really durable, good quality feeling phone. So I don't have any complaints as far as the build of the device goes. But let's now take a look at some photo and video samples from the Doogee S96 Pro. The camera quality from the Doogee S96 Pro has definitely been a very nice surprise. In general, I'm very pleased with the results, whether it's taking selfies with the front-facing camera or taking photos with the ultra-wide. Of course, the quality isn't necessarily near where it would be with a much more expensive flagship phone, but considering that this is a mid-range device, the photos are completely fine. Maybe the only shortcoming that I could think of is the macro camera. I wasn't really able to take too many good-looking pictures with that for some reason. And in addition to that, the night vision camera actually works. The only improvement that I could think of is that in video mode, at least for the rear camera, it seems like the contrast is a little bit off, but it still works well enough. Now, one other thing that can be improved too is the microphone quality. While the actual quality itself is decent, the gain is very low. So when I play the videos back, the audio is not very loud. So if they can increase the gain through a software update, that would be really awesome. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with a front-facing test video with the Doogee S96 Pro. So let me know what you think of the video quality from the device, as well as the audio quality from the microphone too. Definitely curious to know what you think. And here is a night vision test video with the Doogee S96 Pro. So I'm in my laundry room right now, and there are no lights on in this room at all. In fact, you can see a little bit of light from under the door, but it is completely dark in here. I can't see anything with my own eyes, but with the night vision camera, I can see what's going on in here. So pretty interesting. Never had a smartphone with this feature, that's for sure. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, coming at you with a 4K test video with the Doogee S96 Pro. It is pretty windy outside, as you can probably see. So if you hear a lot of wind noise, that's why. Looks like there's no autofocus in video mode, but you can tap on the screen to manually focus. Kind of interesting. And here is a 1080p test video with the Doogee S96 Pro. Getting that processor, that's actually the same exact processor that comes with the Pixel 5, but with the 485G, we do get two. So watching video content on the phone is definitely a good experience. Really the only downside is that since the display is only 720p, unfortunately, videos are limited in that resolution as well, but you can see the video still looks decent, not a problem there. And as far as the speaker quality goes, it does get decently loud, and in general sounds good enough. However, we only have audio coming out of the rear speaker, whereas on some other devices, like the Moto G Power for example, we get audio coming out of the main speaker, but then also the earpiece, giving you a more immersive audio listening experience. But again, it's good enough and loud enough here that it is going to work, and in general, I don't see it as an issue at all. If anything, it's a good thing. So in conclusion, is the Doogee S96 Pro worth buying? This phone certainly features a lot of things that you cannot find with many other phones out there. The first thing is that I do appreciate how much RAM and how good of a processor we're getting with this device. The MediaTek Helio G90 is a very solid processor, especially for a phone that's under $400. So I do appreciate that. I also like that we're getting 128 gigabytes of internal storage. That's really good too. I also appreciate the cameras, especially that 20 megapixel night vision camera. That's definitely very unique and does make this phone stand out from its various competition. And then also finally, I really like that we're getting such a large battery at 6,350 milliamp hours. Really the only downsides that I could think of with this phone is that the display is only 720p, and then I'm not a big fan of the default launcher that comes with the device. But if through a software update, Doogee can add the ability to add an app drawer with the default launcher on the phone, that would fix that issue. And then as far as the 720p display goes, I mean, it's not a deal breaker because at least the display itself still does look decent for what it is. It certainly doesn't look bad. So I could certainly live with a 720p display, considering that it does at least look decent here. But if it was 1080p, that would make this phone even more perfect. But in general, I think this is a very good, rugged phone from Doogee. Definitely a good offering here in the sense that they're giving us a ton of value. So I definitely applaud them for that. But I hope you enjoyed my review of the Doogee S96 Pro. If you liked it, give the video a like, and let me know your thoughts about this phone and the brand in general in the comment section below. But I hope you enjoyed the video. This is Kevin, and I will see you in the next one.